Hi, we're going to start the rather complicated process of importing a pseudo component into the OLI databook for modification for then use back in the OLI Studio program or OLI Flowsheet program. The first thing we're going to do is start OLI Studio because this gives us the quickest and fastest way to generate pseudo data. To start, we'll create a stream, and since we're going to use mixed solvent electrolyte as our framework, we'll click that button. We're going to then enter the name of our pseudo component. In this case, I'm just going to call it the very simple name of PC1. And then if I mouse over this, you can get a little tooltip that says enter a component name and press enter, or for a pseudo component, it vanished, we'll go back again. It'll say, apparently we only get one shot, there we go. For pseudo components, press Control Enter. For assays, press Shift Enter. So we'll press Control Enter, and we give it the either normal boiling point or specific gravity of molecular weight, whatever data you have on hand. Just for this example, I'll pick 100 degrees centigrade and a specific gravity 0.85. It automatically creates a lot of properties. Now you could manually enter all of these properties into the OLI databook, but it is missing some parameters that we still need. So what we're going to do is we'll just give it an arbitrary amount of material. We'll add a calculation, single point is fine, and click Calculate. This actually creates 3 files in our temp folder that we need for our further work. So here's how we're going to find the temp folder. We're just going to start Windows Explorer, and here we are. And then we're going to type into the address bar %temp%. This is the fastest way to your temp folder. It is, in my case, sorted by date, and then I'm going to scroll down until I find the first set of folders. On your computer, you may have a lot. The first set of folder has this really weird OLI name and some sort of random name afterwards. This is actually the folder. Make sure the date is approximately the same time. It is currently about 3:06 p.m. in the East, so I created it on June 28th, so this is the most current folder. Double click it, and don't close the program, because if you close the program, this file folder is deleted. The files I'm looking for are these 3 here, A01, A10, and A13 files. Copy them. I am just going to highlight them and copy them. And I am going to bring them into a working folder, which I have created here, called Demo, and just paste them. Okay. We're then ready to start the next part of our process. You can now, at this point, close both the temporary folder and the OLI Studio. You can save it if you want or close it. We're fine at this point. At this point, I'm going to shut these programs down, leave my working folder open, and then start the ESP program. Okay, I've started the ESP program, and we're going to get a lot of progress here very quickly. If you don't have access to ESP or the toolkit, you need to contact OLI. I will put a link in a moment on how to get to there. oli.support@olisystems is the fastest way, or you can email it or call us at area code 973-539-4996 and extension 2 for support, and somebody will help you out. Right now, this program, which albeit looks like a DOS program, does have some Windows functionality. It has a mouse that can be moved around by the mouse itself or by arrow keys. We do need to first switch to our working folder. Okay. Once again, here is our working folder. I will just copy the address of the working folder. Here I will select Options, Change Directories, and I will just paste in the working folder name. And now you see that it's down here in the address bar. We now need to create our data bank. The first thing we're going to do is create OLI Databook. We are going to page down to find New Data. And here you need to give it its name. I'm just going to use one demo. The first 3 characters must be unique on the computer. It's not even in the local folder. So we're going to use one demo, because if I need to create a second one, I'll just call it 2 demo or some other thing. The first character can be, in fact, a numeric. So I'll just press enter here. I do need to tell the program what framework to use, so I am going to move the cursor to the mixed solvent line and then press the space bar. There's nowhere on the screen that tells you to press the space bar, but you must press the space bar, otherwise you're going to get whatever that little caret is pointing to as your data book. And it created a lot of files, okay, and here in that same working folder is all of our files. Okay, our other files down here, we're going to come back to them in just a second. All right, one of the things you need to do is, when you're looking at these files, these are just text files down here, and you need to make sure you have an appropriate program to open them. I actually use Notepad to open them. I have purposely left this A13 file out here so you can show you how to always open it with a Notepad file. I am going to right click it and select open with. This is Windows 10. It says, how do you want to open this file? Select more apps, scroll down to Notepad, leave this box checked, and it's always going to use Notepad to open A13 files. Okay, and it did, so we'll close that. We have to do some quick editing. The first thing we're going to edit is the A01 file, so you can go ahead and double click that. We have to take some things out of this file. The file is created. The first thing we have to do is delete the first line. That is, you can't have that line there. It, for some reason, creates a line with some spaces. Word wrap is turned on, so we'll turn it off, and everything now lines up properly. So if you had word wrap on. The name of the databank here is actually too long, so we're just going to strip off the entire path length. It doesn't actually matter what the file name is, as long as it ends in the letters DDB. So we're good there. Everything else is good for this particular file. We will then save it. We're now going to bring in that pseudo component into the data book. So here we are, back here. We are going to go into species, okay, and then we're going to use the command import and export. Okay, I am importing a file. It is specifically going to be looking for an A01 file in this folder. There is one. It's that crazy name we just created. And don't worry about the cinnamon data not being found. Escape, press enter, and there's our component in all of its glory. Now there are interactions that should be entered. If this is fine, you can stop here. However, we do have to add some interactions, and that's the next part. Okay. Coming back to it, the interactions are in the A10 file, and we have to do some editing and some parsing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and edit this with Notepad. Okay. You should probably save it as another name. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to strip off all of these paths here. Just leave the INT extension. Now we need to look at this. The program is actually not bright. It does make a mistake. It's actually included the same interaction twice, but it's named it backwards. It does this all the time. So we need to get rid of the duplicate name, but not the duplicate interaction. The other thing you need to point out are these base levels. We have base level 0, then level 1, then level 2. And this is really old technology, but base level 1 is the start, and that's where the name is. Base level 2 tells you the type of interaction, in this case SRK, and data level 2 tells us the actual data. Okay. Then we repeat base level 1, new name, which is wrong, and the type of data. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go down and strip off some data. these files are always the same. I am going to look for the third base level 0 here. This is a different type. This is my pseudocomponent with the hydronium ion interaction. And I'm actually going to take this and I'm going to delete all of that data. Probably a good time to save this. I'm going to save it as a new name, save as, and I am just going to call it still A010 file, interaction 1. No spaces. Actually, let's make it shorter than that. Inter 1, no spaces. Now I'm going to do a little more editing. I need to take out the second base level 0 and the name. Oh, I need to leave the level 1 in there. No spaces, no lines. Resave the file. I can now exit this file. Going back to the data book, I am going to get out of species and go to interactions. I'm going to again also import, export, import, press enter data list. Okay, don't use that guy. That guy has got some problems. Use the one we entered, created, enter 1. And now if I press enter, I have the interaction between my pseudocomponent and water, both SRK values, which you can adjust, and the Uniquac parameters. Okay. There are some more to enter if you need to go farther. Go back to that original A10 file, enter it. Once again, since we saved it, strip out the path. Now we're going to go down to the base level for the pseudocomponent and the hydronium ion, and we'll get rid of all of the other parameters too. Had to do some editing. By the way, if you make a mistake, it won't import, so you don't damage the database. We're going to save this as inter 2, and we can go ahead and close that file. Come back here, come back to interactions. Once again, import, export, import again. There's interaction 2. Now we go and we see we have the hydronium ion, the mid-range terms from the Uniquac MSC model, which you can adjust if necessary. And we're going to do it one more time. Once again, back to the original file. We're going to edit, take out all of the interactions. We're going to start again from the base level 0 and go all the way down to the last one, which is the interaction with the hydroxide ion. Save again as a new name. Enter 3. Close. Again, the screen doesn't update the menu line for some reason. Import, export. We're going to select enter 3. It brings it in. And if I look, and now I have the third one. And again, you can adjust them as needed. So this is how you can add your interaction components as well as your pure component data. There is the one last file, okay, which we didn't talk about. This is the A13 file. This is the material codes file. Okay, same thing. This can also be brought in. Okay. This puts it into the model generator, keeps molecular weight warnings under control. This one we can save. We can bring this one in directly, and that's done under literature. Material codes also has an import, export, import. It'll find the A13 file. That one's the same name. And now our material code is entered. You now need to do this for every single one. The only reason I'm bringing up material codes here is that every single time you do this, you're probably going to have the same material code for the pseudo component. So you have to be careful that you don't overwrite the material codes. So going back to the original pure component, PC1, in the general section, it has a material code. The program will tend to do this for every single pseudo component you create. It will create the same 8501. You can just change them here. You can make it 8502, 03, 04, 05, all the way up until when you're done. Just make sure that you're not reusing the material codes in the same database. It will give you all kinds of errors when you do that. So when you're all done, just check to make sure you're using different ones. You could have changed it in the A0 or the A13 file and imported them. It's just something to be careful of the program when it is not smart enough to do this. You can then import this into the OLI Studio program or convert it for use in OLI Flowsheet. I think that is it. If you have any questions, please give me a call and we will talk about it in great detail. Thank you very much.